Welcome to Track Tested Motorsports. My name is Jag.
And I'm Boris.
And if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And today we're talking about Road America, your favorite track?
My favorite track still.
And Boris and I actually met at Road America, and it's made a world of difference to both of us.
Yes, it's been a great thing.
Yeah, and it's been 11 years, and I'm actually going to head there this fall. And
finally, it's going back.
Actually, this channel, putting this together actually encouraged me to go, so I'm looking forward to it. And it's, like I said, the first time I've been there. And Boris was there with his student Ralph about a month ago.
Yes.
And he's going to walk us through the track as we have here, as we did with Gateway or WWTR. And then I'm going to put a session of Boris's coaching session with Ralph, and then one of his hot laps as well. So Boris, how was Road America a month ago?
It's still one of my favorites, Jag. I think for a number of reasons. One, it's just so beautiful. You know, it's so picturesque. It's like driving through a park. It's the longest circuit in North America for slightly over 4 miles. So it feels like you're actually driving somewhere instead of just going around and around. And the speeds are high.
Yeah.
You know, there are these long straightaways, 2 of them, and then this section here where in the rain scar we were, right around 160 3 times each lap.
Wow. I don't think I remember when I was there a decade or 11 years ago. I think the max I hit was 134, 135.
Still, but you did it probably the same 3 places.
Yeah, the track hasn't changed.
No, the track hasn't changed at all. The signs on the bridges have changed. Those are making improvements. So there are more amenities. It's always just becomes nicer and nicer place to come back to each year. But the track itself hasn't changed since it was built back in late 1950s. It can be a daunting place for sure because, as I said, the speeds are high. It's important as you go faster, as we talked in some of my previous episodes, the faster you go, and more important is to keep that vision up and have some good reference points off in a distance. Not only does that help you place the car in the right place at the right angle, but also gives the brain more time to process that information that's coming at you faster and faster as you're closing in on some of these corners like turn number 1. Yeah. As far as so should we do this turn by turn?
Yeah, that works out well. And some of the stuff that I saw in your videos, even in your advanced runs, people are still not aware of what's around them, or they're not passing correctly. So take a look at those videos as well on situational awareness and passing to kind of present yourself. So
the Road America has a lot of reference points, which is wonderful, and elevation changes. So it's fairly easy. For example, let's just start off with turn 1. You're approaching turn 1, depending on the car, always at something over 100 miles an hour. There are bleachers here for spectators. There's an access road. Those are all great reference points. So I use them. For example, I know as I'm going by the bleachers, it's time to be thinking about lifting. When I see the access road, that is the time to be on the brakes. And then there's even a little white line that's painted. I think it's from the Skip Barber School where they place the cones. I know that is my turning point.
Okay.
So those are all sorts of references that I use. As I go through the apex of turn 1, the track rises slightly, and there is a sign that you will see later in the videos. It used to be a Briggs & Stratton. Everybody used to just place the car underneath that V. But now it's an Aryan sign, and I noticed that the letter A is the proper place.
Okay.
And as you crest the hill underneath that sign, looking down towards turn number 3, there's a building behind it.
Okay, somewhere out here?
Yeah, so it's right there.
Okay.
Right there. And by going on that path underneath the A and then looking towards that maintenance building, you really eliminate turn 2. Gotcha. It just disappears because now you're making a straight path. And it puts you in the right place for the braking zone for turn number 3. And then turn 3 is a pretty classic late apex 90. So now you're headed down towards 5, downhill. Very fast, even though it's a shorter straightaway because of the drop.
Yep.
The speeds are pretty much identical here and here. There is a bridge, spectator bridge, and a drive-over bridge going across the track just before turn 4. And it has a Sargento cheese tractor trailer. That's been there since you've been there. Yeah, that hasn't changed. and it's still the right place to put the car is underneath the driving wheels of the truck.
Yep.
And it's a bit intimidating because you're going under the bridge, and by doing so, you're putting the right side tires right near the edge. So obviously, you don't want to run off the track. But what we're trying to do is put you on a path, straight path down to 5.
And that's what I remember is if you do that properly, you're doing a straight line, and the track is actually moving underneath you, right?
Right.
That's what it feels
Just like here, the track's moving.
Yeah.
But we've talked earlier, every time you turn the wheels, you're slowing the car down. So if you can keep the wheels pointed straight, your speeds are going to be greater. And then as you go underneath the bridge now, off here in the distance, there's a billboard. It says Road America. It says different things, different years. Right now, it just says Road America. So what I do when I'm going underneath the bridge, I'm looking clear over to here, a mile away, at this huge billboard, because that puts me on the correct path for the entry to 5. And just like a lot of the old school tracks, Road America has a crown down the middle of the track, just like a highway.
Yep.
And this right side where I just erased the line, it's pretty bumpy from all the heavy braking from powerful cars like Indy cars. So it's actually better to come in at a diagonal.
Yep.
So you have a really stable platform for braking. Turn 5 is the tightest corner on the track. I think it's right around 125 foot radius, so it's also the slowest.
Yeah, and I noticed on one of your sessions, a Corvette actually, I don't know if it had brake failure or not, just went straight through.
Yes. The braking is immense because you're going downhill, so you got, the acceleration due to gravity, and plus all the weight you're carrying and all the speed. So there's a lot of kinetic energy that has to be dissipated and turned into heat, and this is typically where people have brake failures.
Okay.
So turn 5 is very slow. Second gear, most cars only down around 40 miles an hour.
Wow.
So you were going from 140 to 40.
Scrubbing a lot of speed there.
Scrubbing a lot of speed and down 3 gears usually. But it's a corner that needs to be taken with lots of respect for the reasons we mentioned. But it's otherwise a fairly easy 90-degree corner. That takes you up on a short straightaway, up a steep hill to turn 6, which is under the Corvette bridge. And the apex is blind because it's on the other side of the bridge. Again, easy corner in terms of geometry, 90 degrees. It's important to get the braking done before the bridge, before the crest.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the car gets really light, and the wheels and the tires will lock up.
Yeah, I remember that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So then becomes, this is really my favorite part. It gets especially if you have a lower horsepower momentum car. This is where your car is going to really feel at home. The track drops down. 7 really is just a bend, lift, a little bit of braking, turn in. Down the hill to 8, and 8 is a lot like 5 because it's downhill and it's a 90 degree and it's slightly bigger radius, but you can kind of approach it the same way you do 5, and then later you realize you can go maybe a little bit deeper because it's a little bit bigger radius. And after you go through 8, it's important to do a short shift between 8 and this turn we call the carousel. Carousel by definition is a constant radius corner, so there's really no apex. So the important thing there, and right now the bridge says speed mill on it, it's if you have a low horsepower momentum car, you just want to hug the inside. There's a white line, and you'll see in the videos there's even some dirt showing up where cars have driven over the grass so many times.
Gotcha.
You place your low momentum car on the shortest distance around that long turn that seems to go on forever. But if you have a more powerful car, then you want to enter a little bit to the left.
Okay.
Maybe a car width.
Yeah, I remember hugging it to the right all the way through.
Yeah. And also, again, don't forget, there's that crown in the middle. So you want to go around the carousel on the inside so you're on camber. Because if you get on the outside, especially if there's debris or marbles out there, you're going to go off. And there's a gravel trap around the entire track. It's a common place for cars to go off in races, not so much in DEs. And then as you're exiting the carousel, this turn 10, it's important to make sure you hit your marks there because you're building speed as you go around the carousel, and you don't want to end up on the left side of the track and off camber, which then takes you to turn 11, which is famous in Road America. It's known as the kink.
And that's where I get a bit nervous because you see the wall with a lot of marks.
Yes, yeah, every color under the rainbow is on these walls. Because there's just no margin for error there. Your speeds are high, typically 100 plus. And the race cars with aero, they don't brake. They just go flat through there. They don't even lift.
Yeah.
Most street cars, because they're heavier, require at least a lift to shift the weight forward. Make sure those front tires get a good grip, and or braking is required to slow the car down, transfer weight, and then back on the throttle.
And you want to touch the curbing on this?
Yeah. You definitely want to at least place about half a width of tire on that inside curbing at 11. It's really low curbing. It won't upset the car. It won't upset it nearly as much as touching the outside wall on the exit. So yeah, it's I always like to hear that little bit of I know I'm in a good place, and I have some margin for air on the exit. But then this is all just flat out down towards turn 12. And
I know that flows as well pretty.
Yeah.
It's right.
It's plenty of room for passing there. But when you point and look in the mirrors, make sure you don't run off the road because the track is moving underneath you. And coming into turn 12, also known as Canada Corner, for most low horsepower cars, this is actually where they're going to hit their highest speeds because they've been building speed all the way from here to there. So for a low horsepower car, this is actually where they're going to be going faster than they would at coming into 5 or turn 1. So pretty fast entry. The track comes in a little bit at 12, so it's important at the entry to give yourself 1 or 2 feet just so you don't run out of track under heavy braking for turn 12. This is the lowest point on the track. After 12, the track climbs all the way up.
I forget there's so much elevation change.
Yes.
When you mention it.
So you're going downhill from 6 to 12, and then from 12 you're going uphill to start finish line.
Yeah, I remember this part right here.
Yeah, and the important reason I mention that is because when you're going uphill, it's having like additional camber. So turn 12, you can carry much more speed because it's uphill. Yeah. And third 13 is actually my favorite.
Yeah, I like the transition from 12 to 13.
Yeah. So 13 is you're coming up a hill. It's the apex is fairly late, and it's blind. And there used to be a bridge that went across there before there was a tunnel built that goes underneath the track. And the bridge was known as Billy Mitchell Bridge. So a lot of us call it the Billy Mitchell Turn now. But that's my favorite. Usually I just lift and back on the throttle. And then brings you to the most important turn on the corner number 14. The reason it's most important because it's preceding the longest straight. So it determines what your terminal velocity will be down here.
Yeah.
And it's a big corner. By big, I mean it's slow hands. It's very easy to turn in too soon and realize, I turned in too soon, and then have to make a correction, therefore losing a lot of your momentum, and wondering why you're 10 or 15 miles an hour slower here than you were the previous lap when you hit your marks here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know that's the one I concentrated the most on to carry the most amount of speed.
Yes. That's always the one that I teach my students how to do well first.
Yeah.
And then you're coming up a steep hill. If you need to come into the pits, there's also a pit lane here that brings you in. And you're just going up this long hill, and wish you had about 1,000, maybe 1,200 horsepower, like an old Can-Am car. And then you're back at turn 1. So there's your lap of Road America in about 13 minutes.
That was quick.
But in real time, it should be about 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay.
All right.
Yep, and like I mentioned, Boris, I'll do a coaching session with Ralph that Boris did with his student Ralph, and then a hot lap with Boris as well. And with that, we'll wrap this up. My name is Jag.
And I'm Boris.
And thank you for watching.
Hope to see you soon.